So you have eligibility not only as the person's, you might say, demographic characteristics, but also eligibility related to the media in which they are working. And it could be open or restricted or selectively restricted. So it might be two-dimensional and or a three-dimensional work that they could submit. And it may be two-dimensional and it can only be acrylic painting. Or it could be only oil painting. Or it could only be works in marble. It could only be works in found objects. So you've got to let people know the media that you are going to accept. And some even now separate photography from two-dimensional or three-dimensional. So it may be only a photographic show. It may be something that's ephemeral. You might include the people who do performance art. There are some art shows now that are even including writing as part of, all right, the spoken word. So they've got a manuscript, but they are reading it out loud. So they translate writing into performance. Or it may be video or video enhanced, such as multimedia presentations. So these are typical restrictions or the job description you would see as the type of media that you would be considering for your artist call. Is the show or exhibit going to be juried or not? If the jury means that people are going to be judging the relative worth and relevance of that piece or pieces to the show. If it is going to be juried, who are the jurors and what are their qualifications or their, in essence, a brief bio? All right, a professional description of each juror. You then will be including the submission guidelines. And those guidelines being not only the media, as I talked about in the previous items, but you might they have to, as they submit to you, in essence, you're telling them they have to send a written document, some type of document that lets you know the media in which they are working, the dimensions of the piece or the pieces they are submitting, the number of submissions that are allowed per artist. Because there are some galleries that say you can only submit one piece. Or you can submit one piece in several different categories if you're submitting to, if you have a show that has more than one category or more than one type of media that's accepted. You want to let them know how you want the images submitted to you. So do you want them as JPEGs? Do you want JPEG and hard copy? Will you accept 35mm slides? Or do you want prints? Or do you want a combination of all of them? Very often, you'll ask them to submit an artist statement. So what is it that the artist is saying through their work? So that as their work is being juried, the jurors read the artist statement and they match that to the work. Right, and they're seeing, is there, do we see something that hangs together here? That we get to some degree the motivation behind what this person is doing. Because very often when people are looking at art, there's a story in that piece. And when they're buying art, for example, if this is going to be a selling show, that the piece will sell. But if you've got a really good story with the piece, it may sell even faster. So that's why that statement is so important. Because people aren't just buying the art, they're buying a story. And when they are putting art up in their homes, and people, mention that, they like to tell the story. And then the format that it's going to be submitted. Will you accept it by USPS, or UPS, or FedEx? Or do you want it strictly via email, where everything needs to be digitized? Or do you want it redundant, that they send an electronic submission first with hard copy to follow? And these are all the things to think about as you are composing your call for art, or artists. And then, are there fees involved? And those fees involve several things. For example, there are some shows that you have to be a member of their organization to submit work for the show. So before you can submit your work for the show, you have to pay a membership fee. And then you're a member of that organization, and then you can submit your work, and then you pay a fee to submit your work. So you pay a fee to pay a fee. Or is there a fee that's involved with someone submitting? For example, you might have a $30 submission fee for processing for one piece. If you're allowing them to submit up to 3 pieces, you might change that. If they submit 3 pieces, that goes up to $40. So it may even be a sliding scale, but that is often involved in the processing. And so it may vary based on the number of submissions that each artist is allowed, as well as part of what that fee is covering is going to be the short-term insurance that you as the gallery are going to pay for those works while they are in your space. So you may even include that there might be an insurance waiver attached. Are they going to waive the insurance, and therefore they're waiving that part of the fee? When they do that, they are saying, I am consenting that this piece will be in your space, and if something happens to it, you are not liable for my work. So is there a fee or a fee waiver? As well as the dates that that work is covered. Because in essence, from the time that piece comes in your door until the time it leaves, you are bound to insure it. You can limit that to 1 day after the show closes. So you determine that ahead of time as the curator or the gallery. Are there going to be awards? If there are, what are the categories for the awards? For example, is there going to be a best of show, best of division, first, second, and third place within those? And are the awards going to be cash? If so, if someone gets best of division, what would that cash amount be? Play with it. You know, imagine you've got $50,000 to work with for awards. All right, so how would you disperse that? You know, best of show, best of division, and would the second and third place come in also? All right, just play with it. Or is it going to be merchandise or services? There are some shows where if you are a winner in the show or in a certain division or within a certain media, that you instead might get art supplies, or you might get use of studio space. You also want to make sure that you include several dates, not just when the show opens and closes. You want deadlines by which any submission that an artist is sending has to be received. You want deadlines so the artists know when the jurying will be done. So the deadline of when the pieces are going to be selected. And then once the pieces are selected, what are the deadlines by what day the artist... Boy, I'll try this again. What's the deadline that you will be adhering to notify the artist that they have been accepted or rejected for the show? You want the event starting and ending dates and times, as well as if there's going to be an opening reception date and time. Most receptions in the art world occur on what day? And most openings occur on what day? Friday. You then want to note by what date people should be selecting the rejected work, picking up the rejected work. Because if they didn't make it into the show, and that rejected work may include not only a piece itself, if they're submitting a physical piece, but any of the paperwork or the like that they may have submitted. As well as if the piece or pieces were accepted into the show, the deadline after the show comes down that they have in which to pick up their work. And that's important, once again, because of insurance and liability.